Caravana remarked, "I have to admit the draw offer caught me by surprise. I took some time to consider it. At least I know what my next move should be. b3, d4, and before that nf2, h3, g5. But I can't really improve on this position. I don't have any particularly proactive ideas. If anything, black is slightly better, but I thought I had already passed the most difficult part of the game. Just a while ago, I felt it was much riskier. When you face someone with a rating several hundred points higher than yours, what thoughts go through your mind? Are you the type who sees yourself as a perpetual student, anticipating defeat in the hopes of gaining valuable experience? Or do you spend the evening, before the match, trying to find a drawish line for white, hoping for a desired draw? If that's the case, I believe you are putting your chess career at risk. A true champion always does everything possible to come out on top. If defeated, they swallow their pride, acknowledge their mistakes. Players with less competitive spirit think differently. They base their decisions on ratings and titles, calculating things like this guy is a GM, so a draw would be nice. Or that person is rated 2200, so I need to beat them for my IM norm. In fact, this mindset is often found even among mediocre GMs, whereas only the absolute best individuals have the drive to excel and the courage to take risks. Similarly, it seems that players around the Carlsen's age or younger, give or take 5 years, are afraid of him. This reminds me of a joke shared by the chess legend Vladimir Kramnik, who finished second in a tournament right behind Carlsen. He said that he effectively won the competition because Carlsen was in a league of his own compared to the other participants. This statement came from someone who had previously defeated Kasparov in a World Championship match WCC. It's not surprising that many people believe Carlsen's contemporaries would struggle to dethrone him, even if he chose to retire without losing a single game. However, it seems that players from the older generation don't hold him in high regard as the younger, more promising chess prodigies. You can see their dedication to giving their all against Magnus. Even though they clearly outmatched by his strength, most of them didn't back down for a draw. Despite chess engines and grandmaster analysts agreeing that Blake had a clear advantage in Game 12, the two players agreed to draw on move 31. Carlsen chose to go into tiebreaks to determine the world champion. Carlsen and Caruana are scheduled to play a quick playoff game and blitz if necessary on Wednesday, November 28th, following a day of rest on Tuesday. In the first game of the quick tie-break match, Carlsen will play with white. Don't worry about the dozen games that ended in a draw. In 1863, the top 2 players in the world competed in the World Checkers Championship, and they drew all 40 games. 21 of them were the same, so there is no need to be concerned. In comparison, London was incredibly hot, but the action for the day was just getting started when the defending champion decided to call it quits, ending the day's competition abruptly. It was like watching the first half of a Quentin Tarantino film, only to see all the characters suddenly lay down their weapons and resolve their conflicts over tea. After the match, Carlsen reflected on his mental state and commented, "At this point, I probably wasn't in the right mindset to go for it. At least they won't have to split the prize together." Moreover, they didn't opt for an early repetition, which was a possibility in the first hour of play. This is a positive development. Chess spectators were spared from such a disappointment as the challenger continued the fight, choosing 15 b3 instead of switching his queen from a4 to b4 and back to a4. Caruana and Carlsen will now play for rapid games at 25+10 and possibly some blitz games too at 5+3 on Wednesday to determine who will hold the highest chess crown for the next 2 years. The blitz games will be played at a rate of 5 moves per minute. The complete format has been republished at the end of this article. After today's press conference, Carlsen participated in a quick drawing of lots to determine who would play with white in the first game. Following the game, Carlsen made some comments that made it abundantly clear he was planning to participate in the postseason, despite the advantageous position he was in. His lack of interest in hearing computer evaluations after pawn breaks such as 25 b5 instead of his intended 25 a5 was particularly noticeable. My approach was not to unbalance the position at that point, he stated. My approach was not to unbalance the position. I had a very clear path with a5 and e4, which gave me a completely safe position that I could maybe play for a win. And it seemed nonsensical to go for anything else, Carlsen explained. I could play for a win. Carlsen's motive was different from that of the other super GMs, who usually prioritize positional truth and correctness. He wasn't aiming for the most technically proficient moves. Instead, he was seeking the most reliable sequence of events that would lead him to Wednesday. Carlsen showed a lack of concern when he was informed that the b5 move had earned him an approximate +2 computer evaluation, which was his highest score in the game. I don't care, he simply replied. Carlsen's suggestion to settle the game for a draw came out of nowhere, just after the minimum number of moves, when there was still a lot at stake. Caruana took some time to deliberate before accepting, making this game the shortest in the match with only 31 moves played. Caruana had to quickly readjust his plans for the day. After once again playing through the Sveshnikov defense, Carlsen introduced a new twist to the game by placing his knight on e7, instead of returning it to its starting position on b8. This led to an original position where it was unclear whether the challenger should position his king. This situation persisted for quite some time. Both Kasparov and his longtime rival Vladimir Kramnik didn't hold a high opinion of the f3 and rh2 idea, arguing that it provided opportunities for black to exploit. Kasparov was especially critical of the Kramnik's utilization of the concept. Caruana explained his plan, stating, I intended to apply pressure, and if I got a chance, I would try to seize it. The opening didn't exactly go as planned. I was behind for a significant portion of the game and found myself in a position that I didn't feel comfortable with. One journalist claimed that the players had different views on how the mid-game should be played. Carlsen clarified, I wasn't implying that his position was acceptable or anything like that. I simply mean that it wasn't clear to me how I could break it down without exposing myself to risks, and I wasn't willing to take those risks. In my opinion, there is no major contradiction there. Caruana agreed on that point, saying, I think our evaluations were probably very similar. I'm just stating that neither of us saw anything that would be winning for black, but we can both agree that white was in a difficult position. This should be evident to players of any caliber. Did you like it? Tell us what do you think of the video in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.